think about how quickly he moved forward from me to Marjorie, that was disturbing. The not having closure part was really devastating. But on top of that, he took my Winton. Took my Winton from me. He turned my son against me.
So it's starting to look like 2024 is the year that a lot of celebs get exposed, and Steve Harvey is the next celeb on the list because his ex-wife Mary just came out to talk about how he did her dirty during their marriage. According to Mary, she was Steve's ride or die when he was trying to build his career, but the moment he blew up and became rich, he dumped her for Marjorie. And not only did he dump Mary, but she also claimed that he went out of his way to make her broke and homeless because he took everything. Now hold on to your edges because Mary is out for revenge and she is spilling every drop of this messy tea.
Never an apology. Steve never said that he was sorry.
Now, Steve Harvey might be one of the biggest relationship gurus of our time, but what a lot of people don't know is that his relationships himself were not always that great. I mean, sure, things between him and Marjorie appear to be going great, and their marriage looks solid apart from the few alleged cheating scandals here and there, but they appear to be doing great. However, this hasn't always been the case with Steve's relationships and even marriages because his first two marriages were kind of disastrous to say the least. Now, not many folks are aware of this, but Marjorie happens to be Steve's third wife, not his second wife, like most people think. Before Mary, he was married to another woman who also happened to be the mother of his twin daughters, Brandy and Carly. Now, this story kicks off in 1996, who was still legally married to his first wife, Marcia, crossed paths with Mary. Back then, Mary was working at the counter at a cosmetics store when Steve walked in, and they exchanged numbers. At first, Mary wasn't romantically interested in Steve and gave him her number more out of politeness than genuine interest, but Steve was persistent, showering her with attention. The turning point came when he surprised her at work with the box overflowing with more than 100 Hershey's Kisses and a note that read, "I'll walk 1,000 miles for your kisses." Well, Steve's charm worked its magic, and Mary found herself falling for him, and things were smooth sailing for a while. But before anyone jumps to conclusions about Mary being a gold digger, let's set the record straight. Steve wasn't the rich, high-profile figure that he is today. In fact, Mary had to support him through hard times as he still struggled as a comedian, trying to make it big. Broke and bouncing from one club to another, he was far from a gold mine for anyone to dig, so don't even come with that storyline. But like I said, Mary stuck beside Steve during the tough times, going as far as to giving him a spare key to her place in case he needed a place to crash. But slowly and surely, Steve's career gained traction, drawing more and more fans to his performances as he became a hot comedian. But you know the saying, behind every successful man is a woman. Well, Mary was that woman for Steve. As his popularity soared through crazy heights, she pitched the idea of him starting his own club instead of just performing at other venues for a cut of the fee. Now, Steve was definitely making a name for himself, but as we all know, fame doesn't always translate to wealth, and a lot of celebs out here were fronting for the gram, so to speak. But anyways, he didn't have the funds to kickstart his club because, let's face it, those projects can cost a small fortune. But Mary was the ultimate ride or die. Without hesitation, she decided to invest in Steve's club, pulling in her life savings of $250,000 into the business because she had unshakable faith in him. Not only did she drop some serious cash, but she also got her hands dirty, helping with the club's design, interiors, and other details. But talk about an ultimate lover girl, giving it all for her man that she believes in. But after she had supported Steve for years and stood beside him during the grind, Mary stumbled upon a shocking revelation. Steve was married with 3 whole kids. Can you imagine standing by your man for years, putting in your hard-earned cash, all $250,000 of your money into his dreams, only to find out that he had a whole family hidden away? Listen, it would be swinging and swinging everywhere, cause listen, the hands would be rated E for everybody, period. I don't know karate, but I know crazy. You better ask somebody. But anyway, Steve, the smooth talker, managed to convince Mary that he was in the process of divorcing his first wife, Marcia, Marsha. Despite the bombshell, Mary chose to stay because he got his parents to get in the situation and convinced her that he and Marsha were done for real. He eventually divorced Marsha legally and made things official with Mary. They tied the knot in 1996 and welcomed their son Winton Harvey in 1997. But you know what they say about cheats. Once a cheat, always a cheat. And that truth held for Steve and Mary, with Steve continuing his infidelity throughout a significant portion of their marriage. But as Steve's popularity soared and the cash started rolling in, it attracted a swarm of women. There was one particular side piece that stuck around for quite a while, and that's a woman named Terry Smith. Steve seemed genuinely into her. Now, we all know that some side pieces can have a crazy amount of audacity, and Terry was no exception. She took it to a whole new level by writing a note to Mary, spilling tea about her affair with Steve and how they were in love and all of that. Well, Mary chose to stay put, even as Steve carried on with his affair with Terry for 9 whole years. The divorce finally happened in 2005, and to be honest, it's a bit of a miracle that the marriage lasted even that long. And then, almost as if on cue, 5 seconds later, after Steve and Mary filed for divorce, he jumped into a relationship with Marjorie Bridges, who then later became Marjorie Harvey. Now, rumors have been swirling that Steve was sneaking around with Marjorie even before the ink dried on his divorce papers, but the couple always shut down those speculations. Mary even herself said it in this interview.
When I think about how quickly he moved forward from me to Marjorie, that was disturbing.
She also insisted that there was an overlap between the marriage and Steve's relationship with Marjorie
that I was finding out about. I thought the least that he could do, make me whole at the end of it. He left. He just left, walked out the door. Once he realized that I was going to divorce him, he walked out the door. He had a shoulder bag. He walked out. Went right to New York, to our apartment that we had there, which I never got to see, by the way, and then she joined him there. Marjorie joined him there.
Now, this is where it gets real juicy. Many folks out there think Marjorie strategically roped Steve into marriage. The speed at which they moved on after the divorce raised eyebrows, and to add fuel to the fire, she somehow convinced Steve not to get a prenup. Now, wrap your head around this. Steve was already a millionaire when they tied the knot, so it's not like Marjorie could claim that she was there from the bottom or she helped him build his career like Mary could. But that's not all. Marjorie pulled off a major finesse move by getting Steve to adopt all 3 of her kids from previous relationships. He gave them his last name, provided for them, and treated them like his own. Now, Steve deserves some credit for being a decent guy, but let's not overlook Marjorie's skills in the finesse game. She's the OG material girl, and guess what? She's got Steve locked in tight because, let's face it, he ain't going nowhere. And speaking of Marjorie, can we please spend some time to talk about Marjorie's own chapter of drama? Back in the 90s, she found herself in some serious hot water while married to a certain Jim L. Townsend, a big shot in the drug game. Jim caught himself in quite a situation, facing charges for trying to score a whopping 40 kilos of booger sugar, if you know what I mean. He ended up with a life sentence but got a break from President Obama when he gave him a pardon, letting him walk after 26 years behind bars. Now, this is where it gets even shadier. The FBI had their eyes on Marjorie during that time, suspecting her involvement in the drug ring. Authorities dropped the bomb on Jim, telling them that they had tea on Marjorie's shady dealings and she was headed for the cuffs herself. But in a twist, Jim struck a deal with the authorities, taking the fall himself because Marjorie was 8 months pregnant with their second child, and Jim feared that their 5-year-old daughter Morgan would be left without a mother if he didn't cut the deal. And as if one drug dealer wasn't enough, Marjorie then found herself linked to another one, Donnell Woods, who is rumored to be Lori's father. Now, rumor has it that Donnell might be Jimmy's cousin, but going from Jimmy to Donnell, Ooh, that's a wild little journey there. Well, anyways, back to Mary and Steve. They went their separate ways and Steve hopped into the scene with Marjorie. You'd think that they'd be smooth sailing, but nah, they found themselves knee-deep in a legal showdown, especially when it came to their son Winton, who was still a minor. When Mary threw some serious allegations at Steve, claiming that he was violent towards Winton. According to Mary, the divorce left her in shambles because she lost everything, from her business to her cars. She even got evicted from the home she once shared with Steve. And to top it all off, she claimed that Steve apparently never paid the divorce settlement money, as the court ordered.
Had me evicted from our house, thrown out. All the businesses, all the money, the cars. At a moment when I was down and devastated, he maneuvered everything. He manipulated the courts, everything against me. He went to court and under oath said that on his own he had built this whole thing by himself. And I just sat at the table and cried. I cried through the whole thing, and I fell apart. I was crying. I couldn't focus. I couldn't answer any of the questions that they were asking me, and I woke up, everything was gone. It was just gone. And
now, Mary spilled some serious tea accusing Steve of allegedly laying hands on Winton during visitations. According to her, Steve once punched Winton in the chest so hard that it knocked the wind out of him. She also claimed that Winton once returned from Steve and Marjorie's place looking very beat up. Mary even went as far as to say the poor kid couldn't pee for days. Reporting from TMZ, they said, according to the kid, Steve hit him with a belt and then a paddleboard, the kind used for hazing in fraternities. According to the police report, cops took photos of the boy's injuries, showing bruises on his buttocks and right thigh, as well as cuts on his leg. The police report says the boy told cops that it was so brutal, he had trouble urinating for days. Well, Mary did what any concerned mother would do, called the cops. They took some evidence photos and CPS took the case up, but shockingly concluded that Steve wasn't a threat to the boy, and they shut down the investigation. Well, soon after that, Steve sued for sole custody and won, which means that Winton now lived with him permanently, and it was the end of the last times that she saw Winton, because she claimed that Steve soon turned her son against her.
He took my Winton from me. He turned my son against me.
What's more, he filed a motion to put a gag order on Mary so she couldn't talk about the case publicly. But Steve didn't have a gag order, meaning that he was free to talk about it as much as he liked, which was obviously against Mary. Just so messed up, because Mary couldn't even defend herself. Well, this is sad, but fans have differing opinions about this, and they've been leaving comments saying, some women need to move on. The relationship is dead. Sometimes men marry the wrong women. Mary needs to move on. Steve is not the only man who cheats. Mary is bitter, which destroys her. People tried to get revenge on the ex. Mary was broken before Steve met her. He just added on to her injury. I saw her interview years ago. She looks so broken and sad still. I think a lot because she lost her son among everything else. So sad. God be with her. And out of everything, the loss of a relationship with her child is the worst possible outcome, I'm sure, for any mother. But what do y'all feel about this? Is Mary right to still be talking about it, or do you think that she just needs to get over it? Drop your thoughts and comments below and then check out this next video.